Morning, Minister Troy. Do you want to proceed?
Yes,
Senator?
we're going to split it two and two.
2 and 2.
But I'll wait for
Thank
the Minister to take a seat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Millie. Shall I go ahead? Yeah. Good morning, Minister, and thank you for coming to the Seanad this morning. The issue that myself and Senator Seery-Kernaghan wish to address with you is the precarious nature of employment experienced by frontline delivery workers working in the gig economy. And you'll know yourself, Minister, going around the city at the moment, the streets are empty except for frontline workers, the emergency services, taxi drivers, bus drivers and bicycle delivery workers. And they have provided a vital and essential service to all of us during the pandemic, bringing us groceries and our favourite takeaways to the comfort of our home, our places of work. And we thank all of our frontline workers and we thank all of them. But you know, Deliveroo was set up, Minister, by an American banker, as I understand it, who moved to London, couldn't cook his own dinner and was really frustrated with the poor quality of delivery service in the UK. And he very smartly developed a software-driven delivery service that is more efficient, more convenient and really smart. But when you look behind the software app, you have to look at the human experience and the human experience of these workers in the gig economy. And these workers are employed as being self-employed, but there is a subcontracting culture going on there, where a lot of them are young foreign students who are coming to Ireland to learn English and have a cultural experience and taking this part-time work to pay their way. They are providing us with a vital service, but because they're in this no man's land, they have no employment rights, they have no insurance cover. If they're robbed, if they're mugged, if they're in any way injured during the time that they're carrying out the work that we and the service to all of us, they have no cover from the company. I'm going to hand over to Senator Seery-Kernaghan and she's going to give you our ask.
Thank you, Senator Fitzpatrick. Minister, on Friday last week, the UK Supreme Court found that Uber drivers were entitled to employment protections and were not self-employed. The case, supported by the GMB trade union, argued all along that they were workers and so they were deserving of those protections. We've seen a similar announcement by the Italian courts yesterday. Minister, the UK ruling arose out of the fact that there are three categories of worker or of employment status in the UK: that of employed, employee and a hybrid that marries the gig economy type flexible model of self-employed with basic employment rights. We don't have that last category here. Minister, my meetings and correspondence with Deliveroo, I've argued that it's not acceptable for a company to establish a business model that doesn't take cognizance of the employees' employment statuses available and lawful in a country. Their business model relies, as Senator Fitzpatrick has said, on riders scrambling for deliveries to maximise their income during the course of their shift, and there are accidents, and we have now the more recent sinister development of criminal and antisocial elements. Their business model also by default facilitates unlawful working. The insistence that drivers are self-employed, that they can allow someone else to register under their name on the app and carry that work, means that there are people working outside of the permissions of their visa. I don't blame them. I don't have an issue with that per se, but it is because they are a lifeline to communities and to the food businesses within those communities. However, it does mean a reluctance to come forward and to report attacks when they occur. They are policing the city themselves by red zoning areas in the city and saying they're not going to deliver to them. And those communities, as a consequence, are being stigmatised and denied service. I've written now to the Minister for Justice. I've consulted with the Gardaí and Dublin City Council on this, but I've put forward to the Taoiseach Minister Damien English the feasibility of this third hybrid category of working. I've looked at submissions on rights, taxation and supports, and I believe that we can hold companies like Deliveroo to account and to be obliged to provide supports to their workers and the people who are generating the profit for them, but we need to engage with the model of the gig economy as a new mode of working, while also ensuring that we don't facilitate a race to the bottom in the exploitative nature of these vulnerable workers. Thank you.
Minister
thank you to both senators for raising this important topic today. At the outset, I want to extend my sympathies to those workers who have suffered from such appalling violence in their course of work. No one should have to contend with such violent situations, and in particular I want to offer my sympathies and those of the whole of government to the family and friends of Diego Cortes, the Deliveroo cyclist who tragically died in a hit-and-run accident in August last. Although An Garda Síochána are heavily involved in supporting public health restrictions, they are continuing in their duties to prevent and investigate crime, including assaults on delivery workers and vulnerable members of our communities. On the matter being discussed today, let me just state that it would not be appropriate for me to comment on the employment status of any individuals or groups, as there is existing mechanisms in place for such determinations. The issue of determining employment status is within the remit of the Department of Social Protection, as I'm sure both senators are aware. Where an issue arises in relation to the employment status of an individual, cases are forwarded to the Revenue Commissioners and/or to the scope section of the Department of Social Protection for investigation, either solely by the recipient or jointly by the Labour Inspectorate of the WRC. In most cases, it will be clear whether an individual is employed or self-employed. Where there is doubt in relation to the employment status of an individual, the relevant department and agencies will have regard to the code of practice for determining employment of self-employment status of an individual. This code was drawn up and agreed in 2007 by the relevant government departments in collaboration with the Irish Congress of Trade Unions and IBEC. New and legislative forms of working arrangements are emerging as the labour market adapts to the opportunities presented by digitalisation, broadband and globalisation. This includes the emergence of a more freelance-type working arrangements known as the gig economy, as well as new forms of trading known as the sharing economy. It is important that policy adapts to provide social protection for workers in these new and emerging forms of work, while not stifling social innovation. The Department of Social Protection, through its scope and ESIU section, are engaging in revising and updating the code of practice for determining employment and self-employment status of individuals to reflect new working models and also recent case law in the determination of employment status. Ireland has a robust suite of employment rights that protects all employees equally. Therefore, once it's clear a person is working on a contract of employment, written or verbal, on a full-time basis or part-time basis, that person has the same protection under employment law as other employees. All employers carry the same obligation when it comes to the compliance with employment rights. Where an individual believes they are being deprived of employment rights applicable to employees, they may refer a complaint to the WRC, where the matter can be dealt with by way of mediation or adjudication, leading to a decision that is enforceable through the District Court. Ireland has always resisted the creation of subcategories of employment, as this will inevitably lead to a race to the bottom where hard-won employment rights are gradually eroded. Therefore, the Government has no plan to create a third category of employment.
I suppose, Minister, the difficulty is, and I have been in many cases in the WRC and the Labour Court, the difficulty is that you can satisfy the criteria of self-employed while in actual fact be working unlawfully. So there is a problem in the model that we have, and the department, with due respect, the Department of Jobs, in the Department of Enterprise, actually needs to address the fact that the gig economy works very differently, and these Deliveroo workers and Deliveroo are relying on our current criteria for self-employment in order to facilitate the avoidance of rights.
Thank you for your response, but I absolutely concur with Senator Seery-Kernaghan. The world has moved on. The gig economy is real and it's alive, and an awful lot of our citizens are earning an income and a living in the gig economy, and we need to, as a government, respond to that reality. I appreciate the Minister coming to the House. I appreciate that the House has given time to this important issue, but Minister, I would ask you to continue to engage with myself and Senator Seery-Kernaghan on this issue, and I want to also acknowledge that Deliveroo have contacted and been in contact with both of us, and I want to acknowledge that fact, and I want them to work with the workers and the government to actually address this issue in a sustainable way for everyone. Gormagat.
Thank you, Senator. Minister.
Thank you, Ciara. Well, I suppose it's not clear under what criteria a person would be deemed to fall into this third category of employment, where they would be neither an employee or self-employed. We would essentially be creating a lesser category of employee who we acknowledge is not self-employed, but to whom we would not afford the same full suite of employment rights to which they're currently entitled, I should say. It's important to reiterate that the Department of Social Protection is engaged in revising and updating the Code of Practice to reflect the new working models and also recent case laws which the Senator alluded to in the determination of employment status. That code is being updated, and it's been updated by way of an interdepartmental working group in consultation with the social partners, and it is expected that updated code will be published within the coming months. So certainly from what has been said by both senators here today on foot of this adjournment debate, I will feed in to that interdepartmental working group, and if you want to put something formally by way of a written submission, I'll ensure that that's taken on board also.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you, Senators, for raising the issue. The sitting now stands suspended until 12 noon.